You want to make a plumber mad? Bring another tool other than Milwaukee onto the job. And second is cut PVC pipe with a miter saw. This used to work, but we ran the brake into this right here, so I've had to unplug it. So now I got to manually go over and turn the dust collector on. So my Schluter pan measures, the hub is 10 inches in, the center of it, and the width of it's 32 inches. So I'm going to rip, I don't need it running all the way across, but I'm going to make this 24 inches wide. Alright, so what I'm doing is the pipe, a 2-inch pipe OD is what, 2 3/8, somewhere around there, maybe a little smaller. I'm going to bore a hole here, and then I'm going to rip it on the table saw again. Schluter is 10 inches off center of the hub, and since I cut my pan down to 32 inches, center is 16. And by the way, I don't know if I've said, this is part 2. Alright, so this is what I did. Here's our shower pan right there, and of course I got a studded plate coming down here. My Curdy board is going to hang a 1/2 inch over top my shower pan. So this is what we got here. This is where it's going to go. I would like to twist this, so I'm going to bring this back a little bit. Nice. I cut it 1/8 of an inch shorter, because I knew I needed a little bit of gap here. So we're close enough. I can actually move that much for putting the hub in. Next, this panel right here. Yeah, we can. Shoot way back here. Let me stick that light down in there.
They can see the plug.
Oh, we got a stand pipe here. And this has been, what now, 2-3 days?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. We passed inspection. So let me tell you what we got here. And a lot of things have changed since I saw you. So we got, this is supposed to be 10 feet for during your test. To do that test, of course, we got the blow up balloon in all of our fittings. So we got a little bit different style over here. These here are just a wing nut. It just compresses an O-ring.
Same
The
deal.
entire pipe is full. Yeah. Now, if you'll notice, we got a little bit of damp dirt down here.
Sand.
Damp sand. And that's the reason is we had a Furco there during our first water test, and it blew off. And Harley said that this thing shot up and hit the bottom of that. So either way, so everything's wet down here, but it's held water now for, either way, it held water while the inspector was here, but we are past. Okay, getting to this, what do we got going on? So I think I covered the fittings, that this is a combination with that long sweep. That's, I believe, the only fitting that you can basically lay horizontal without having quite a bit of a slope. We got our P-trap here. This is going to be the shower. You saw us cut this in the other video. I got this piece of copper here, and I'm going to fill this with sand, and that will keep my shape. That way I'm not closing up my shower hub. We need to wrap all these areas right here with that's going to be coming close to the concrete with either foam or some real heavy or thick plastic. Basically, you're giving it a little barrier between the concrete and the PVC. If that way, if the PVC moves or anything like that. The sand, as we're putting the sand in, we're taking a rod and we're packing it really good because we don't want this to settle. But we are doing something different. We actually come in there. A lot of guys won't rebar it, but due to the fact that tile's coming in here, we do not want this thing moving. And I will say, in our past experience, we've not had any issues. A lot of times we just take wire mesh, wire mesh or something like this, and bore into the side and use that. But this time we chose to use I dropped down to 3/8 rebar as opposed to half. Typically you'd use half, but we're going in there and giving ourselves some support, and I think it's a good idea. Of course, we got the water closet, toilet or whatever. We need to put a little cushion or whatever there. And did I discuss? Come on over here. I can't remember if I discussed the this sweep right here. This is the washing machine, and with washing machines, anytime you go on the horizontal portion of it, you got to jump up to 3-inch, and that's due to newer washing machines having a high discharge rate, and apparently they will overload the system if it doesn't have anything 2-inch or 3-inch or larger on horizontal areas. Now, talking about the level, I think this level is pretty fantastic. This is a Milwaukee. Let me show you right there. See if you I want to blind you. Can you see the lines in there? There's an 1/8 of an inch line. Here, I'm going to come right up and tickle it. And then there's a 1/4 of an inch line. Now we set this thing right on 1/8 of an inch. There you go. You see that? Can you see it? We are right on 1/8 of an inch. So anything larger, at least pertaining to our state, is anything 2.5 inch pipe and larger. So we have 3-inch here. 2.5 inch and larger, 1/8 of an inch is the minimum. So 1/4 of an inch used to be the rule. So the larger the pipe, the less of a slope it needs to be on, because it's the volume that's going through it. One thing you need to give into consideration is, one is if you're going to run out of height when you're laying your pipe, and the other is whether or not you're putting enough materials through it that you don't want your water racing away from your actual solids. So European countries have experienced this quite a bit, to where I think it's Italy is the one that really was. As households were getting smaller and smaller and they're using less and less water, their sewer systems are failing, because I mean they were set up with a lot of fall, and now the water races away and the pipes are getting clogged because the solids aren't able to move. So either way, don't get worried about that. I even have one. We don't use that guy anymore, but you know what? His plumbing always worked. And when we get into difficult areas on like your main lines or whatever, he'd always tell me, because we'd be almost close, we'd have to run a little spot that was almost setting just almost horizontal, but then it just start to drop. He's like, don't worry about it. He's like, we're good. He says the head on that will push down through, and they always worked. They always worked for that short little bit, almost to where the pipe was flush. When you get into a tight area, some of your 3 and 4 inch pipe, sometimes you're forced to almost put it right level. All right, the Furco. I think we covered everything. Of course, we got a test. You know what? I'll show a video where we're actually putting one up in there. So we actually got one of these bulbs there, balloons or whatever up inside there. But they do make one that is, Oatly makes one that's a little bit longer that I think covers 2-inch all the way to 4-inch. That'd be nice, but they're almost like $80 each, and you can see how many we got. These are the cheap alternatives. Just these wing nuts right there, and they work. They get you past.
They don't work in every scenario though.
Yeah.
If you had a scenario where you've been forced to plug.
Well, yeah,
that.
for like
or on a coupler, it wouldn't work.
inside that.
It has to be on the inside diameter of a pipe.
Yep.
For that to work.
So sometimes the balloons are the way to go.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to get it foamed up and do concrete, and then we will start on our rough framing.
Concrete.
Plumbing.
You got to do some concrete.
Concrete. This guy's awesome.
Oh,
This
yeah.
thing is it's dead too.
batteries
Oh, there's no
and
battery. That's why it's dead.
Charger.
As far as cutting rebar. Oh man.
Look at my pieces we cut, and we're not even done yet.
No. We did a couple more pieces, but
We'll pile it. Actually, there's I think a piece we pulled out over there.
yeah. So
Yeah.
good deal. I think I'll call this the end of part 2 right here. Well, maybe we'll get the concrete in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And I'll see.